Okay, so this is the Pine Island Oral History Project, and today we're interviewing Joey Morton, who's a longtime resident here in Bokeelia. The date is March 26th, 2025. The interview is taking place at Joey's home, where he lives with his wife, Virginia. And I'm the interviewer. I'm Jim Friedlander. The recorder is Steve Russell, and we're going to get started. So, Joey, can you tell us about when you were born?
I was born in 1948, October 27th.
Okay.
Fort Myers.
In Fort Myers?
Yes, sir.
And where did your family live then?
My family?
Yeah.
Where they was living at?
Yeah.
They was living right when you first get into Matlacha, about the fourth house in the Matlacha coming from town.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about your family, about your parents.
Well, my granddaddy, there wasn't no bridge there. And he got there, I think he got settled down there right before the bridge got built. And he squatted on the property. And so he gets paid no taxes. They started paying taxes on the property. And he squatted. And he built him a little place there, got him a little restaurant, and he sold bait and food and gas. At one time, Mr. Hotz was telling me, he used to always place in Pine Island, you could buy gas. He had that was a gas station. It was kind of like an old-time convenience store, right there close to the bridge. And he was quite a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what he did for a living?
Yeah, he was a fisherman earlier in life. He did a lot of guiding out of Uzeppa with the guides, you know, the rich tourist people would come down there and go tarpon fishing. And he was one of the guides. One of the stories was, he was telling me one time, they'd take the yacht and drag about 4 or 5 little bitty boats out there, rowboats, and put the guides in there, like my granddad was a guide, and put the guides in each one of the boats. And the rich tourist guy would get in a boat with him, and granddaddy would paddle him around the passes trying to catch tarpon and stuff. And the restaurant at Uzeppa would always back lunches for him. And one day, it was time to stop and eat for lunch, and granddaddy had an old rich boy his food, and granddaddy started eating his, and the old fella said, "Neil, how come you getting chicken and I got peanut butter and jelly sandwiches?" He said, "Buddy, I'm in good with the cook." Well, I don't really believe that was the reason. But he was known for being a character like that.
So when you were growing up, where'd you go to school?
I Jekyll in English for the first 5 years. Then they built the school at Pine Island Center. But the first year they built it, they didn't have no lunchroom. And they didn't let the kids in Matlacha go to it the first year. So we had to go over town. We had to go to Jekyll in English and get on another bus, go over town, and go to school for the 6th grade over there, which was wonderful because by the time we get to school, it would be 9:30. And then twice a week on the way home, we'd leave school early to go to the Fort Myers Library. And so we'd leave school about 1 o'clock every day, so it made a wonderful 6th grade. I enjoyed that year. That's right before they got the new bridge in.
And so when did you start fishing?
As a child, I mean, I remember going out with my dad when I was 6, 7, 8 years old. Go out there and did a lot of night fishing.
Night fishing.
And I'd stay awake for about an hour or so, and I'd be up about to freeze up under the bow cap, sleeping the rest of the night, you know. And then he'd be out there striking. But next night I was ready to go again with him.
So what were you fishing for? What kind of fish?
Back in them days, we did, we were pretty much what you call shallow water fishing, which was around Pine Island. We did some deep water, some grouper fishing and stuff like that. But our way of fishing was mostly in shallow waters. And we did a lot of mullet fishing, pompano fishing, trout fishing, sand brims.
Was that all net fishing, or was that line fishing
What
too?
we did was all net fishing.
All net fishing. Yeah.
We did a little bit of blue crabbing, a little bit of stone crabbing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what kind of boat did you have?
Well, back in them days, all they had was the big guys had launches, and they have like a cracked crown in. But most of us old timers, my dad and them, they had little 8-horses Briggs and Stratton with wood boats that they made themselves and everything.
Yeah.
And then later on, probably in the probably mid to late 50s, whoever thought of it started putting the motors in the front. And so they started converting the motors, taking the hot heads out and doing that because you could run up in the shallower water and stuff like that, get around better with them.
So did the motor have a shaft or a...
Yeah, the original ones, you'd have to like 2 pole skiffs. Usually it was a crew, 2 guys. Two pole skiffs and a hot head, a little launch, which is just a little bit bigger than the pole skiff. And you had flats nets there, cotton nets. They had cotton nets, and then they had flat nets. And I can remember the very ending of that. You had them cotton nets. You had lime, and what you would do, you get a bucket of lime, throw it at the bottom of your little pole skiff, and then you build water in that, and then you'd sit there and build water on that net for the longest time to get that lime all down through it. And then back in them days, everywhere you looked in the water behind people's houses, what we call net spreads. Just 2 poles hanging up there, you just drag your net, let them dry out, you know. But you had to do it because you missed very many times doing it, your net would rot real quick.
Did you make the nets or did you buy the nets?
We bought the webbing. Bought the webbing, which is what the net's made out of. All we would do is hang them in, put the cork line and the lead line on.
Okay.
Yeah, we did that.
And then
when you hang a net, you want to hang it with different amounts of butt to make a catch better. You get more butt, the better it'll catch. But if you get too much butt, it's hard to clear them.
So explain butt to me.
Butt is the mountain net. If it's stretched out to those like a curtain, and you want it kind of come in like a curtain, so you have more chance for them to get tangled up in it and everything.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, that's like when they told us they left us. That was a joke what they left us with net wise, but they left us. We were allowed 40. We were allowed 4 shots about, as long as you can get out of them, it's about 40 yards, and they can't be tied together, and you can't run but 2 over per boat. It's like telling a semi-trucker company, oh, y'all can still haul all your freight, but you gotta use little dots and pickups to do it in. You can't use a big truck. And so that's how they got away from saying they took our livelihood away from us.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they did.
When did that start? When did they
That
start?
started, I don't know the exact date, around 85.
Around 85.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
We've been talking for years. And it was big money. It was the sports companies. Yes, the people from Texas did it over there first. And they sent a bunch of money over here, down to the Keys to get it started down here. And that one man that had Florida Fisherman's book, sport book, he was, I can't remember his name right now, but he was really big in getting it. And a lot of folks now, I don't know, a lot of folks claim, oh, I didn't vote against y'all guys. He said the way they had it worded, maybe I was thinking we were voting for y'all guys, but we I don't know how true that is or what.
Yeah.
But it don't matter, it's over with now, and it's sad.
Yeah.
And another thing about that, I told myself when it was over, I said, well, at least fishing will get better because we did catch fish. And I thought it would get better, but it hadn't.
Yeah.
So it's just everybody moving down here and what comes with them. And I guess the waters are dead and that red tide. When I was a kid, we had that maybe every 3 or 4 years you'd have it. And it's always at the very end of summer, like August or September, before you ever get it. But now it's getting to be a yearly thing, and now it's even in the wintertime too.
That's right.
So it was more than any, when I was a kid, there was some sunk ships off of Tampa that had them depth charges in it, and they dumped a bunch of them out there or something like that, and they rusted away. And there's all kind of theories what caused it. I don't know, they still got it figured out for sure.
So when did you start fishing on your own?
When I got out of the Army.
Yeah.
Yeah, I graduated in '67, went in the Army for 4 years, and then when I got out, I came back and I signed up to be a policeman there. But whenever they called me up and tell me to come on in, fishing sure was good. And I couldn't leave it, and I wouldn't have left it down unless they made me.
So what kind of fishing were you doing?
I did a lot of pompano fishing.
Pompano.
That's what I really enjoyed. But I crabbed and stone crabbed. And when I got me a bigger boat, I go down a marathon a couple months out of the year during the wintertime and fish the shoreline down there in Florida Bay. And that was a treat. I got to eat a lot of crawfish while I was down there. And a lot of bars. My wife would come up here, and so I got to go to the bars once in a while. Yeah, I had a good time growing up on this water.
So when you were pompano fishing, that was always net fishing also?
That was always net fishing.
Yeah. So how do you set up the net for pompano fishing?
Well, when it comes to fishing, that's what I like about the shallow water fishing. It's more like hunting. It ain't something you just go out and do the same thing over and over, like trout fishing. You go out there at nighttime trout fishing, you paddle around and you listen for pods of fish. When the tide starts flooding, the fish will bunch up and start feeding up in the shallow water, and you listen for them. And then catfish do the same thing, and they feed and sound just about alike. Now, a catfish has more of a sucking noise when they bite the top of the water, but which the trout does, but it's so close, and you want to catch some trout, you mess up a lot of times. And sometimes it's just a solid bunch of trout and you catch a solid bunch of catfish. So, and it's just like hunting, fishing, pompano fishing. Of course, daytime, you just ride around. Trout fishing at that time, you just ride around from low bottom to low bottom looking for the fish to run off. Then you contemplate, is there enough here to strike, or do I need a few more, and see what kind of trash is running off. But then pompano fishing, at nighttime, that's when I enjoyed it. You run down the banks, and once in a while you pop a light, and one or two might come out. And it looked like it might be hot enough like you had half moon the shoreline, which in a lot of cases, what the shoreline was a reef like. Because the pompano would run for deeper water. They like to run in towards the wind, or they like to run in towards the tide when they get spooked a little bit. So you got used to striking which way that would be to cut them off first, But when you do it a little bit deeper water, when you got phosphorus in the waters, every fish that takes off, like you're kind of up there on top of the water feeding, and you went up there close to them and you spook them, they'll take off different, and they make a different sign. And a pompano would make like a little ball of white puff, which is the phosphorus, and they usually darted down real quick. And so you had to get used to telling them what you was looking at, It was just interesting. And you didn't do the same thing every day. You trout fishing season, red fishing was a fun, but you do a lot of riding looking for them herds. But here's another thing that proved to me that we hadn't done as much damage as they said. They took the redfish away from us. Excuse me.
They took the what from you?
The redfish.
Yeah.
They took the redfish away from us before, I don't know, 4 or 5 years before they took the nets away from us. And redfish they would bunch up in October, November. That's when I guess they bunched up to the spawn and everything. And they took them away from us to begin with. And they was getting, when you see a bunch of redfish back then, usually before you can get close enough to them, they just busted and spread way out. Well, within 3 or 4 months, I mean that quick, at the redfish band, you could see a bunch of redfish from half a mile away and run right up to them and do donuts on them, and you could count how many was there. The fish wasn't stupid. They knew they were safe. But that's how quick they adjusted.
Amazing.
And within a year, all the sharks in the world showed up this harbor. I think we did a lot of wing digging for pompano, where you'd throw your net right against the beach and run right straight offshore and make a big old hook. And you just sit there, which is boring as heck. But you just sit there and then you pick it up every hour or so and get what few pompano you got.
So these were gill nets?
Huh?
They were gill nets you were using?
These were gill nets.
Yeah.
Yeah, just any kind of, only other kind of fishing I did was I made me up a group of boats and did some offshore grouper fishing for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Which I kind of enjoyed that too. Same thing.
Yeah.
Until politics got too involved in it. You had to have license for this, license for that. You had to call before you go out. You had to call before you came in. all kind of silly stuff. Yeah. So I mean, some of the stuff was necessary.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was just
Yeah.
people that don't know nothing about the business making the laws, you know.
Yep.
And if we tell them anything now, we just, you know,
Yeah.
that's what I say, we're like in front of us, they don't want to believe us. But
So when you set a net, I'm just trying to understand, when you put the net in, it hangs down from floats, is that right?
well, there's several different ways of fishing that too. We got drifted, where you put a light lead line on it, and like we go to Florida Bay in the wintertime, we did a lot of drifting down there. They would take, for about a month and a half down there, the crabbers and crawfishermen would move all their traps out of the bay. Because at one time, fishing was a lot more important than crabbing was down there, crawfishing. And we'd drift nets. And then after that, they put it over, then they put their traps back in there. And then they started doing so good crawfishing and stuff, they couldn't afford not to. So they started putting they left the traps in there. And so we ended up using sink nets. And you put a heavy lead line on them and a light cork line, and you let them float to the bottom and they stand up. Well, you got a lot of tide down there too. So you kind of want to run it overboard where the tide won't lay it down quite so bad and everything. It all factors in, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like I said, that shallow water fishing was fun.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got some Costa pictures to show you, but it's not nothing you could take with you, but it shows you who discovered it.
Virginia, not right now, we're in the middle of an interview.
Oh, okay. Well, let me sit down then, I won't
Yeah.
get
Oh,
them.
yeah.
Yeah,
gotta
have
get
a
'em.
seat.
We got time.
We'll do it later. Thank you. Yeah. So when they started putting in these regulations, this was like 1985, you said? That was like 10 years before the ban?
Yeah, quite a bit of space. Like the first regulation happened back when I was a kid. Well, there was a couple of regulations. That's, I think about the same time. It might have been at the same time. They made snook a game fish.
Okay.
At one time it was a commercial fish. At one time wouldn't nobody eat it. And then somebody cleaned the skinned it, and they found out it was a damn good eating fish. And then, so it became a really popular eating fish, commercial fish. Matter of fact, the mayor of Naples killed a many of them.
Is that right? Yeah.
Archie Turner.
Yeah.
You know Archie?
No, I didn't know.
Okay, he was the mayor of Naples.
Yeah.
And he was also, they had fish people down there too. Naples wasn't the same Naples then, though. But yeah, they took the snook away from us, which her dad played a little bit of part on that. They were trying to make trade off on different things with the government. And they wasn't letting us, if we would agree with making that a game fish, they would let us put our seines on the beach. So it just kind of made a trade-off. And that was one of the things we lost with snook. And the bow limit, that was part of the trade-off too. In Mountain Shea, when I was a kid, we feed people's dogs. They was all fishermen just about.
Yeah.
A few, you know, northern people that came down there in the wintertime, and they was just like regular people to us. You know, they was just out there to enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
And they took that, we had to stay away from there a mile before we could run a net in the water. And the fish learned that too. And the mullet would be black around them bridges and everything. This big old black mullet all the time.
All the time.
And we'd sit on the edge of that limit and wait for something to come out. And I gotta admit, sometimes we did a little bit more than waiting on the edge of the limit. We'd ease up every once in a while and get us a little blast off when we had to, you know.
I know there's some more
But-
things. Tell them.
Like all the canals they dug in Mountain Shea in the 50s, I guess probably started in the late 40s and the 50s. There wasn't much houses on them, but they would fill up with mullet. But when it get a cold snap, they would fill full of trout too.
Yeah.
And there was a lot more fish back in them days.
I'm
But
sure.
I still think more pollution than anything else before. Like, now, I don't think now all those commercial fishing and all the sport boats out there, it wouldn't be a good thing out there now. But I still like to find out.
Yeah.
I do miss it a little bit. Miss it very much.
There's a couple of things I would like you to tell them. We didn't have no cars to go.
Virginia, you're gonna get your turn. I don't talk while we're talking.
We're going to talk to you afterwards. Is that okay?
Okay, I just didn't want him to forget to say we didn't have.
They're recording this, honey.
So when the government, the state government, decided that they were going to put this net ban in, how did the fishermen around here react? I mean, what did they do? Obviously, they probably didn't like it, but I mean, did they put up a fight, or was there a fishermen's association? Or
we thought off was a really good thing at the time, and I think when it was first started, it was a good organization that fought for us, you know. And you build an organization from people that don't have a lot of money,
right?
So it wasn't, you know, they couldn't fight sports people, and I think there at the end, my own personal belief, what are the head guys that were running off? I think. Hey,
excuse me.
Yo.
We're recording.
What are when they first started? Yeah, when they first started this stuff. Now I forgot what my question was.
No, I was asking you, you know, how the fishermen reacted when the state said they were going to pass this net ban.
We had like one really main man running the organization. We had a lot of active people in it. A lot of people worked really hard, but at the end, it looked like the main head man might have sold us out. I mean, that's what a lot of us feel like, you know.
You felt like what?
Like he sold us out, you know. He was going to some kind of big meeting in Tallahassee. He said, "Y'all y'all need to come and everything. This is exactly what I was going to do and all that." When he got there, he did it right opposite, and it was a big thing. You know, it was important.
Yeah.
But they did say they voted on it and everything, and it looks like it's legal. It's like Trump losing this last go around. It looked like he lost it, but I don't know about it.
Was it phased in, or did it come in all just?
No,
that was
it gives a day once it got passed, we had about like a year.
A year.
And that was they bought a little bit of nets and stuff back from some of the guys. Of course, that was a rip-off too. You had the guys that play fair, and then you had the guys that bought every net and everything they could find. So, you know, people on people, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So that wasn't 100% correct what we did. Some of us did anyway.
So after the net ban went in, I mean, what did the fishermen do? What did people?
Well, they offered, the government stepped in and said, they offered people training in driving trucks or electricians or plumbers and stuff like that. They offered that to us, stuff like that. And some did it and some didn't. And we still had like a year or so we could fish. And I'll tell you what I did. I got set up to go to North Carolina. I ended up buying me a house up there a couple of years. And I hung me a net right before the net ban was over with to take up there. I have a good new net to start off with. And I said, well, I'm going to go out there tonight. It was a third of a net. It was a 200-yard shot. And usually you fished about 600 yards, which, if you don't know nothing about fishing, seems like a lot of net. But that ain't, you make a round circle, and a couple more round circles, you're not taking in a very big space. But I said, I'm going to go out here and pay for my net, and I'm going to be leaving in a couple of days to North Carolina. And I went out there that first night in the net ban, and I took in an island and sat there waiting for some mullet to hit. And old boat paddled up on me. It was one of the Marine Patrol guys, and I knew that wasn't pretty good, and we was friendly. And I didn't know the boy with him. And the one I knew, he was more like in charge. And the other guy, he didn't want to write me up, you know. He said, I got to do it, Joey. But he made the other guy do it, you know. They knew it wasn't, you know, it wasn't right what was going on.
Yeah, yeah.
But maybe it was right. I mean, of course I'm going to feel that way, I guess. But,
Yeah.
But in all picture, I don't see how it could have been the proper way of doing it, you know. Now in Alabama, which I don't like the way they did it, but I like it better than they do here. They had your license. Of course, for up till probably, I don't know what year started license. You didn't have no license, no fishing license. You just a fisherman. But in Alabama, at least they let anybody, I forget what they paid, $10,000 or whatever it was, if you want to sell your license back to the state. And several fishermen did it. But the ones that didn't do it were allowed to keep their license till they die. But they couldn't pass them on. And so at least you got a buddy that used to live here, moved up there years ago, and he's still able to fish his regular lifestyle and everything. Yeah. So that was at least better for the people anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they didn't offer that here.
Not here. Yeah, yeah. So what did people do for entertainment down here anyway? The fishermen and the fishing families.
Fish?
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, besides
We didn't do
fish.
vacations. It was, how do you say it? It was a very poor life as far as material stuff. But I remember when I got grown, me and my wife got married and I got grown and everything, I would get a new outboard motor because my old one blew up. And I tell you about them outboard motors, especially them 50-horse Mercuries. They good for 13 months. They would give us 12 months worth of warranty, and the 13 months they'd blow up on it. But yeah, but that's what we, just little things meant so much, you know.
Yeah.
And we might go to Costa, have a picnic once in a while, something like that. But we wasn't vacation people. We wasn't in with the worst of the world. Even from here to my friends in school, we was a different people. The kids was different than them people were. And I always was subconscious, excuse me. And I was always subconscious about it, thinking everybody was better than me and everything, and blah, blah, blah. And that's what I felt. But I think it was more me feeling that way than it was them, you know. Because I had a lot of friends, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But I'm glad I got you. If I had to do it over, I'd be a poor old mullet fisherman again too.
So I've heard also that there was a fair amount of drinking going on back in those days.
Well, I was pretty well known for it. For the time I got in the Army, I was 21. I was in the Army for 4 years, and that's where I learned how to drink. When I was in the Army, I was in what they call the ASA, Army Security Agency. And all we had to do, we had to copy down missions. We had to copy signals, mostly Russian signals and stuff like that. And we could do it from, I put it in when I was over there because I was feeling guilty. I put in to go to Vietnam. It's about 40 some of us that put in for it on our little company. And they took the guys that could do the manual Morse. But I went on and got automatic Morse. And that's where we just copied some whole machine. And they had no use for it. We was copying the east coast of China from Germany. And so they took a few of them guys, we call them ditty boppers. We take hand signals, what we call a stick, you know. And so I kind of felt good because I lost some buddies over there and all that stuff. But it was, we did a lot of drinking.
Yeah.
Out there, I spent there a year and a half. They put me in charge, they called me the whip-op. The boy that was the whip-op, his tie was out, and he left. And they gave me another year and a half there. And the whip-op guy is the one that sits in the middle of, we had like 4 or 5 bays, this old airplane hangar. It was a German officers training school post. And the big hangar was our security building. And I'd have to make sure the top priority signals would be copied. Because during the day and during the night, some of them became higher priority than others. And some of them would drop off at nighttime. And so we had, I could set up our what do they call that, our time off. And I could fix it. We worked 6 on, 2 off, 6 on, 3 off, 6 on, 3 off. Well, I could fix it where I worked 6 days. I could give OTC. I mean, if we didn't need them, I could give the guys time off besides their certified time off. I could fix it where they could have a 4 or 5 day weekend. And that would give you enough time to go to Munich,
Yeah.
go to the Opera House,
Yeah.
Oktoberfest. So we learned how to drink a lot.
How about the places out here?
Did a lot of drinking out here.
Yeah,
A lot of drinking.
yeah.
But it was mostly the age. It wasn't the fishing people. When I got older, I got completely away from it. My dad, by the time I remember my dad going out 3 or 4 times, but not very much, you know. It wasn't that no more drinking problem than I would say Cleveland or, I know up there, a lot of them places up there, they got these full family bars, but people I think when they're my age, they still go to them wherever, you know.
Yeah.
So now, you hear stories about guys like Ernie Long and everything, which is quite a character in itself. Do you know about Ernie Long? Have you
Yeah.
heard about Ernie?
No.
He was an old fisherman that came. Here's the story behind it. I'm surprised you ain't heard about him because he's famous around here. And he's been gone probably 10 or 15 years. He probably came from Tampa, Ybor City, or right around Ybor City. He had a wife and 3 or 4 kids when they showed up here. They lived in an old fallen down shack over the mango tree, over the water. And but he was thought to be married. He was thought to be a prize fighter. And this is, here my dad knows the guy's talking. And he's probably been a pretty dang good one too, they said. And he was probably been married to one of the DuPonts, one of them rich DuPonts one time. And I guess I don't know what happened there. But he ended up down here and then he became the local alcoholic, you know. And beloved alcoholic, that is. Everybody loved Ernie. And he fished, he was a good fisherman, but he wasn't organized very good. I remember him taking the nets, like my dad's old nets, we'd cut them out to put newer nets in. I'm sorry. And put newer nets in the butt, and he'd take the old nets. And when we got rid of something, it was ragged out. He'd hang them back in and go catch plenty of fish with them. So he was quite a character out here.
Yeah.
You'll hear more about him as you interview people.
Well, you were telling us a story before about Tootsie.
Tootsie, he was my dad's age. They were really good friends. Tootsie was in the Navy during World War II. He's always been a character. He's the kind of guy, he always had a launch. He put a lot of money. My daddy was a good, hard worker, but he'd bring everything home to feed the family, and he wouldn't invest much money in his gear, you know. But some of them, they had good gear and caught a lot more fish. And Tootsie always had the gear for it. And you'd see him out there on the boat during the run season, which is the time of year where the mullet spawn. And you had to practically live out on the water back in them days during the run season for about $2. And coffee, woo, it had to be that Cuban coffee. It tastes like to me. I remember one day at Blind Pass, cold freezing morning. Couldn't find no fish early and run to that beach, and there Tootsie was, waving his arm, come on over, boy. Cup of coffee? Yeah. I couldn't drink it. It was terrible. So I didn't want Tootsie to see me do it. So when he wasn't looking, I reached over, poured it in the water. And then a little bit later, he said it was empty. Well, he grabbed it and built me another cup. But he had coons. The whole time I growing up, little alligators. He was famous for his smoked mullet. Real famous for that. Matter of fact, he told me how to smoke them. When I took the fish house over and I started smoking them, he had me come over to his house one day and he showed me exactly how he was doing it, yeah. But everybody loved Tootsie. He was a good guy. The only thing I hated the way he ended his life, which a lot of it was over the net man. He just couldn't stand that and some physical medical problems. It was sad because his wife had done died, and his new wife was another lady. I always called her Sis Hipple. Most people know her as Louise, but she had lost her husband, and Tootsie had lost Mary, and they ended up getting together. They have known each other for years and years. Well, her husband, Bob, he was the one that kept everybody's boats going. He knew them old Chrysler Crowns and all that stuff, and everybody loved Bob. He'd come out there and drink beer with you all day, get your boat going for you, and charge you hardly nothing or nothing. But
Nice.
back in them days too, people didn't walk around with money in their wallet. Like Doug Popple, he was good at working on motors and stuff, and he always had a bunch of old used motors around. If you needed a part and he had it, or anybody had it, you didn't buy it from him, they gave it to you. Or if you needed some gear to finish out what you had it on that, people was gave stuff to each other, you know. But that's the thing of the past now.
So the fishermen really got along pretty well.
They got along good,
Yeah.
They did. And I think a lot of them, especially the ones I knew, my dad's age, most of them had been in World War II.
Yeah.
And I think so my dad, he never did say it, but I think they were so glad to live through that war that they just liked everybody, you know.
Yeah.
Daddy landed on Utah Beach, and he said by the time he had landed, he was lucky he got on Utah Beach. He said by the time he landed, though, he said, Joey, there's always so many dead GIs on that beach, I had to step on some to get up on the dang beach, you know. So, yeah, I think a lot of them. We had one old boy named Lewis Whitworth, and he shelled and scallop was a big old thing. Back up until they put that causeway in the Sanibel, scallops was a big deal here. You're allowed to catch 10 bushels a day, and we'd be out there before daylight and back in and had them at a crab plant by 10 o'clock every morning. They were so thick, you know. And but Lewis Whitworth, he was a character. It's hard to describe what he was, but he was a wonderful guy. During the World War II, he worked on Eisenhower's. It had like a runaround boat, like a 40-foot runaround boat. I guess he had one in England, and he worked on that boat with Eisenhower, you know. But
Pretty amazing.
it was funny when the war was over. I might be getting too far off now. When the war was over, Daddy was assigned to a big ship up there in Hammergrove or whatever that seaport is in North Germany. And what they did is just try to find jobs for guys to do so they could get them back to the United States. And that's what a lot of them did. And Daddy left today. Today he left to come back to the United States. Lewis got assigned to that ship, but they didn't see each other, so they didn't know it until they got back here.
That's
and was
interesting.
talking.
Yeah.
But so Daddy always said, Lewis, you're the reason I got to go home. You come to my place. But they were good men. They were good men.
Just wait a second. Oh, it's the clock.
I didn't think about that. I could've
Yeah,
turned
it's
that
funny.
off.
We'll just wait a second.
Sorry, that
Quite
cough.
musical.
Wow, that's fun.
Yeah, you got 3 different types of music we play on it.
That's funny.
Or you can turn it off.
Yeah,
12 hours.
that's all right.
Excuse me.
So were there some bad apples, fishermen that people didn't like, or most of them got along pretty well?
No.
Nope. Not no raw picture of it, no.
Yeah.
We had a boy, and I hate to even say this, because I absolutely loved the guy, but he was kind of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of guy. A good guy most of the time, and it could be a butthole once in a while.
Yeah.
But he was a hell of a nice guy, too.
Yeah.
His name was Little Boy Johnson. He was born up Port Charlotte way, and then growing up around Elgin, and he ended up living down here. And he was a good fisherman. I worked with him down the Keys some and all that stuff. And he had some good times together. He was a little bit of an outlaw.
Yeah.
There was, I ain't gonna lie, there was a little bit of smuggling going on with the marijuana back in them days, but it wasn't nothing. Everglades and down to the south, that's where that stuff came in.
Yeah.
Them boys had regular systems down there. But there was some came in here, but nothing right down there.
Yeah. So are there any other stories you'd like to relate? Anything else?
Well, I'm sure I got hundreds of more. I just can't be able to bring them up all right now, you know.
Yeah.
And
Well, you've told us some great
I enjoy
ones.
talking about it, but it's been a good life. All
Yeah.
I got to say, it's been a good
Yeah.
life. And like I told you the other day, if I could come back a big time football player or a president or something like that, I think I'd come back being a poor mullet fisherman again.
Yeah.
That's how much
Yeah.
I
Sounds
forgot
like
about the bad time. All I remember is the good time. But there was a lot of good times in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So during the bad times, it was just because there was a lack of fish. There
Lack
just
of
weren't-
fish and
bad weather.
and I've been one Christmas. It was been a bad year. There wasn't no run season for some reason. Back when I was young, they had that. They had run season was cut off. You weren't allowed to catch mullet all through the month of December, and maybe the first part of January, and that's your run season, yeah. And so times can get hard back from them. So you got Christmas comes on, and most of the fishing guys were young, had families, and trying to get stuff up for the Christmas, you know. I remember also seeing the picture today, me getting a shotgun for a Christmas present one day, and I remember that shotgun. It was Granddaddy's old shotgun, had a buckle handle on it. They didn't have nothing to give us kids. That's what I got a shotgun for. I remember that year when I see that picture today.
Yeah,
Full tree looked sad behind us there. But I was happy with it.
yeah, yeah.
But I had a granddaddy. He was a fisherman, like I said. He guided. About the time Roosevelt was around here a lot, he was guiding then. And he knew Thomas Edison. He met Thomas Edison. So it goes back pretty good ways. And I don't know. I'm starting to lose my train of thought there, but yeah, it was a wonderful good life. It was,
Yeah, it sounds like it. Sounds like you really
I wish I could
enjoyed it.
just have a microphone and just whenever you think of the story, I can tell it for you, you know.
We can come back. We can
Okay.
come back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'd be happy to come
I
back.
could write stuff down and then,
If you write stuff down and make some notes, that'd be great.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll give me a secretary down there.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks so much for doing this. We really enjoyed this.
No,
You ready?
I didn't
So
mean
This
to
is
do
the
that.
freezer that her father built
Good. It was
in the
fine. It was
early
fine. Don't worry about
60s.
it. Don't worry about it.
Still standing
I
up there in
do have to get you
Matt
to sign a release
Right where
form
everything
so we
got
can
knocked
use
down,
it.
it's about one of the things that's still left standing.
Joey signed one.
And that was the
You have
freezer
to
that
do
made a
this.
big
Yeah, I was just so excited
job and-
about
and,
y'all talking
Well,
about
these-
That's great.
think about
before it really got built up.
Absolutely.
Mount Shea stuff. These are the type
I'm
of
so that's the
lighters.
wrong one. Wait a
Well,
minute.
they were
houseboat-like
so
thing,
much
homemade
about
houseboats. They call lighters.
things
And
like
people lived in them a lot, and they'd
we
fallen
never
fish
had
from
nobody come in here.
Marathon all the way up
Well, we're
to
gonna-
Tampa
One
Bay,
day
stuff
I
like
was
that.
sitting there in Wisconsin
Live in them and
down
followed
and
the
he
fish
said,
around a lot.
I'm the first one that
And I
built
think
the
there was
house
there was
here."
a
I thought, man,
8 or 10 of them still in
You're
Mount Shea when I was
crazy.
a kid, and I'm
Yeah,
sure there was
if
more
we
than
can
that
get you
before
to
that.
sign there, that's a release form. Well, you can read it. All it says is that
That-
it's
that is my
you're
granddaddy
just, you're
deal.
just
He's-
letting us
He's
use
a
it.
story right in itself.
He's gonna.
But
I
he
didn't
guide
want to
fish
do
over
any
New Zeppelin.
pictures.
He was a
I
young
look
man and all
awful.
that stuff.
No, no, you look
He
fine.
met
Don't worry
Thomas
about it.
Edison. He knew Thomas
look
Edison,
fine.
and
Would do that. I wouldn't have done that.
and
Where do you want me to
he had it.
sign?
he had the perfect setup there in Mount Shea. He had him a gas station, restaurant, grocery store, everything combined. The only place in
Where do you want me to
the
sign?
30s and 40s you could buy gas in Pond Island. You had to come all the way up to Mount Shea. He was a fine man. This gentleman here, that's the one I was mentioning earlier. His name was Tootsie Barnes.
Oh Lord, Tootsie.
And he's just, you could write a book on Tootsie.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Could you sure could.
Everybody loved Tootsie. He was a
The
character.
one on the end there.
That's me on the end on the
Oh,
right.
okay. And which one is Tootsie?
That's Tootsie, the one in the middle.
Oh, okay.
Please take me off of it.
Virginia,
My Joey, look how I look.
you look fine.
Okay, my hair
great.
too.
You look great.
Okay.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
That's okay. And what's
Now
this?
this one, I don't know about that one. I think this is a Chukaleski. Yeah, that's down in Everglades.
Okay.
Now this right here is in Matlacha. This probably was in the 30s.
Yeah.
And that's what we used to call it. Right here was another fish extra water in Matlacha. The bridge is over here and the water's right there. And this is houses and a fish house right here. And Matlacha was lower then or something because that would get flooded real easy. So that's a high tide right there on it now. a really big high tide to get flooded. So I don't think it does it quite as much now. They must have hauled some dirt in.
It would get real high. But we've never had a storm like this one.
Okay, I'm going to show you every one of them. Oh no, some of them not interested. Now this one right here, I'm not positive about it. It's either the Costa schoolhouse or the Point Blanca schoolhouse. But Robert Ballard will be able to straighten you up on that one.
Okay.
And both of them long gone now.
Oh, it's the whole island's gone.
Yeah, I think they had one on Costa before they had one on Point Blanca, but Point Blanca was the last one they had going out there. And you know Harry Selleck?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, his daddy was a school boat, ran a school boat for him.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
He's been,
And Harry knows it. He knows a lot.
Oh, he does.
He knows
yes.
a lot.
He's got a lot of stuff.
he is a good man. With
Harry's a
life
good
just
guy.
not- It's really,
Yes.
really hurting
Edie.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew her ever since they've been out here. And that's been a while. Yeah, so schoolhouse. Let's see, any of them here I think you might be interested in? Not really. Let's see what we got here. That was my granddaddy, that's just old mullet boat. No, I don't think none of this. I got a lot better pictures than what this are if we could find them.
Okay.
Oh, I have some good
So-
pictures, but we've been going through pictures.
Now I got one painting on the wall. It's the Point Blanca fish house. Have you ever heard of Fonzo Darner from Boca Grande? He's all kin to the Donners, born and raised on Costa. Passed away several years ago now. But him coming in, they had a fish house and another house beside the fish house over the water. The guy lived there, and there was a man they called Chief DeWitt. I didn't know him, but all my buddies that lived over there, and he had a nickname for everybody on the bay. And he had nicknames for all of them, and he was quite a character himself.
Yeah.
Well, he's in that painting, and Alfonso Darner, which caught millions of mullet,
Fonzo was my
he's in there pulling up to the fish house. I'll show you the picture if you're interested.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah. And pulling up to the fish house, there's a load of fish roped on, I mean, still in the net.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, we go back too much and I start wanting to cry. But I was going to tell you, that there was, when the Costa, they would save their fish and they would salt them down. And then this other boat would come from where, Joey?
Point Gorda.
Punta Gorda, or wait, no, it was further now.
No, it's Point Gorda Fish Company. They ran all the way south of
I'm
Chocolate's.
telling about the one that got killed, though, the ones that got killed on the boat.
Oh, you talk about when they come from Cuba.
Yeah, Cuba. Cuba would come and get the fish, and then they would bring on my parents and everybody their food and everything. Okay, they did that. Well, one boat came in. It never.
There was a
left.
hurricane
A
coming.
hurricane hit.
And
How many? 4 men?
I don't remember exactly how many, but right outside of Pelican Bay, you know Pelican Bay, headed towards the pass, that first cove, they call it Dead Man's Cove, a local name, they call it Dead Man's Cove. Well, they came inside, weathered the hurricane, and they sunk inside, and then they died there.
Yeah, and they was all buried in the same thing.
And I knew a guy named Gomes, Franklin Gomes. He's a little weird guy. He's an all right guy, but he's a little strange. He was out there fishing one night by himself, and he struck in that cove, and he thought he caught a body, one of them guys. And he didn't have a knife on him. He took an oak scallop can and cut his net in two and hauled ass, and went and got some help and everything. And came back when they put it in, it was a big old shark.
It's so funny, yeah. But Daddy, that what I was gonna tell him when Daddy was a kid, 8 years old, is when that happened. And Francis Papa, which knows a lot about that place too, said that it scared Daddy so bad, and he cried. He was just a little boy. So when we was living in Matlacha, if they said hurricane, Daddy's get in the car, get in the car, get in the car, and we'd go to Fort Myers. He was scared to death after that. But
Yeah,
when my daddy got married to my mother in Alabama, they come back and I asked Frances, and she was telling me how Daddy was always dressed up really good, looked really good, and when they brought the turtles in, the women had to, they had to clean, no, the men had to clean the turtles
Right.
when they come in. And my daddy, she said, or whoever was telling me, said Daddy was all dressed up, all like, he was always looking good. Okay, he goes there. He says, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not doing it. Well, my grandmother was the woman for the doctor. She delivered all of the babies. Annie was her name. She's not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. And my grandmother said, oh yes you are, you go do it. So he had all them beautiful clothes on. He went out there and he brought the turtles in and he went up and got in their water thing.
He took his clothes off and cleaned the turtles and then jumped in the water tank, drinking water tank.
And she said, them people was mad and mad and mad. I said, that's what my daddy did. Jesse Padilla.
Well, he was like that, and I had a buddy my age. He grew up on, he was the last kid to leave the island, I think.
Yeah.
Pete Darner was his name. He lives in Carolina now. And he was like that too. He just extra nice, you know. They live out there in a rough life,
Yeah.
but he always drove spotless and all that stuff, you know. And I guess their daddy was pretty much like that.
Pretty much. He went
Yeah.
to Alabama on that. He told you what Daddy was
Yeah,
doing.
CC's the captain.
Yeah.
He went to Alabama, and my mother had a boyfriend. They were going to get married. Daddy said he took one look at her, and he said, you're not. They was married the next day in Russellville, Alabama.
Oh, that'd be so much fun. Yeah, I mean, get 8 or 10 people here from down and sit down and have plenty of time. When something pops up, you can say it, and everybody be butting in.
It's all from Bokie. It's all from Pine Island.
Yeah.
Pine Island.
And you get people that, when we get them here, they'll be excited about doing it too, you know. I got one girl named Estelle. She gets real excited about stuff like that.
I never knew what Mom and Daddy met till Mama told me one time. And Aunt Mary, because Aunt Mary loved that boy that was in love with Mama. And she said he used to cry about it. But Daddy was on there. He went to doing, I guess, doing trees and things.
Yeah, they cleaned out ditches and different things.
Well, my mother-
It was Roosevelt or somebody tried, Woodrow Wilson or one of them, trying to make jobs for the young guy.
I'm going to show y'all a picture of him. My mother was beautiful, and my daddy was good looking. I could see what he's seen in my mother, and you could too. I got a picture of both of them right here.
Great.
Yeah, by next year, by Thanksgiving,
And we
We'll
come from
do
the
it right.
Canary Islands, by the way. The Canary Islands is where my daddy, all of them come from. Raised on, Daddy was born on another island, but raised on Keokausa.
Maiden Key,
Huh?
Maiden Key over in
That's my daddy and that's my mom.
south of the beach,
Isn't she pretty?
Big
Yes,
Hickory.
indeed.
She was the one that kept behind him and they ended up with what they
She was
ended
a
up
fine
with.
lady,
She was a
Virginia.
worker.
She was a good girl.
Nice.
And Daddy went in the Navy, he was a boxer. Can you believe he was not big enough to be a
A
boxer?
lightweight.
He won though, he won.
He was lightweight until he hit Fonzo one night, and Fonzo said, "I didn't want to be this ass, but it hurt so bad I had to." And Fonzo was a tough guy, but a good guy.
Yeah, I love them. I still do.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
They was married. Oh my gosh, they got their 50th anniversary.
Yep, we made it to that. Yeah, we remember going to that.
50 years. And that's Pine Island.
Yeah.
She brought my Alabama mama to Pine Island. And
Could you imagine leaving the farms of northern Alabama? When she left, they went straight to south of Everglades, worked for the Portugal Fish Company, lived in one of them lodges right in the middle of the Everglades. What she left and went to.
She got a
What
shock.
was-
We got a shot.
What was so good about all of that is that mother, well, it wasn't good. My mother's daddy was cotton picker. He grew cotton.
Yeah, he grew
Bales of cotton. And he'd only had one boy, and he had 4 girls. And they had to get out there and work.
That's
Mama
hard
said
work.
their hands would just be in a mess. But that's what they did for a living. So when Mama met Daddy, And he offered to marry her. Yeah, I got married in winter too. They went home and her daddy was there and she said, Daddy, I got married. Now this is things they told me. You got married? And she said, yes, to Jesse. And Mama said he climbed up a step and sat down and started crying. But him and Daddy, after that, big surprise, they were really, really, really good friends. He worked for Daddy a lot and made money.
Nice.
But they had a rough life. They had to walk to school. It was cold in Alabama, and they said their hands would be like freezing. So
But they had the life they knew. That's what they knew.
Yeah.
It ain't bad if that's the only thing you know, you know.
Yeah.
But when my daddy died, my granddaddy, he died a little bit before Daddy, or maybe after Daddy, asked Mama to come live with her because neither one of them had a husband. Mama said, Virginia, I'm not leaving Florida. She didn't either. She didn't go.
You like that?
So that's my story.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
stick
great
to it.
story it
Yeah,
is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you again. Thank you.